It's Portal Pandemonium when we return.
Welcome to the Devy Devotional Podcast, a show devoted to college prospect evaluation with a fantasy football focus. With your hosts, John Arrington, Aaron Wilcox, and Andy Starr. This podcast brings you actionable strategies and player-driven analysis for your Devy, C2C, and Dynasty leagues. Let's dive in.
Everyone else is doing it, so why don't we also dive into the transfer portal? Welcome into the Devy Devotional, where we stay devoted to Devy. I'm your host, John Arrington, joined as always by Aaron Wilcox and Andy Starr. And tonight, we got both of you guys back. That's good to see. Although we are doing this on a special Sunday night recording to accommodate our good friend Aaron Wilcox, doing it Tuesday nights is a little more difficult for him right now. So we're going to be possibly moving stuff around and recording at different times and trying to make it all work. But we will get the podcast in your ears the same day every week as we always do. I am excited to talk about the transfer portal, and in fact, I'm even kind of losing my voice. So if it cuts in and out as we're doing this, bear with me. But we are so excited to talk about this. In fact, we dove into the rookies last week, and obviously we're going to be talking a lot about rookies over the course of the next few months. But there's just way too much going on in the college football realm right now for us to not talk about that and discuss all the changes that are happening. We don't normally get into college football news or anything like that, but like I said, this is a little different. This is a complete landscape changing, and so it's important for us to dive into that as well. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of time for rookies, and we will talk to Aaron a little bit, maybe about some of the rookies that we talked about last week. See if we can get a couple ideas, off of his noggin as well. I'm not going to check in with the boys because Felix Sharp doesn't like it when we do that, and God knows you got to do what Felix wants. So I'm just going to say, no, actually, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well. Happy to be back. And no, I enjoyed your guys' last episode with an early look at the incoming rookie class for 2026. That was fun. Obviously, we're going to go deeper this offseason. I do have some thoughts on the guys, but that's for another podcast. We do have to return back to Guess the Guy. John's asked both myself and then Andy back-to-back weeks, so now we'll be able to I will pepper you guys with some questions, starting with John here tonight. And, John's taking a little bit easy on us thus far. We'll have to see what I got up for him tonight. But yes, thanks for accommodating. And the transfer portal talk should be great because I've seen there's a little bit of that talk so far in the podcast. There's going to be more and more this week, right, as the news keeps filing in. But some of the stuff I listened to is like speculation, and now we have a lot of set commitments. A few of them might fall out, right? We've already seen some shifting or flip-flopping with them, but we do have a lot of confirmed commitments now in the transfer portal. So that'll be a blast to talk over.
Absolutely. Are you still riding high, Andy, off of your 6-pointer from last week's Guess the Guy?
I thought you were going to make like a Packers joke right there after what happened last night against the Bears. But yes, I am riding high off Guess the Guy, but it was a little bit of a disappointment with my Green Bay Packers last night. That would be an understatement. But you know what? Yeah. I kind of lost hope in this season once Parsons was down, so it's whatever, but I can, losing to the Bears just sucks anytime it happens. So in the playoffs makes it doubly worse.
Well, yeah, the Packers season was pretty wild. It went from them getting Parsons and everyone saying they're going to go undefeated and all that to them not being nearly as good as people thought they were going to be, and then losing Parsons and then losing that. So quite the NFL season, but we're not here to talk about NFL. Apparently, we're here to guess the guy. Let's guess the guy. Alrighty, I guess it's my turn, and hopefully Aaron is being merciful and giving me an easy one like I gave him and Andy. Let's guess the guy. I guess I'm up for my guess. Let's see if I can get a 6-pointer as well. I am going to go with. Oh man, I'm gonna go with. Trying to think. He went easy. I'm thinking he's gonna go wide receiver. I'm gonna go with Nick Marsh.
No, it's a great guess. Very topical for this podcast with transfer news, but it's not him. It is a wide receiver, though.
All right,
All
it is a
right.
wide receiver. It's not Nick Marsh, but we're going easy here. Um, let's see. I'm thinking. Oh, I mean, I guess you already asked me this, but it's all players that played this college season, not like only draft eligible or anything like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Um, I'm going Casey Concepcion.
No, it is not. This player had a 33% receiving yards market share this season.
33% receiving yards market share. Is it KJ Duff?
No, it is
Oh,
not. Good guess.
I think he had a
This player is
33%
going.
market share.
He was probably pretty close. I don't know if he quite was there, but very
I'll
close,
look it
I'm
up
sure.
later.
Yeah. This guy is going into his third season in college football, so just completed his second season.
Third season, just completed his second season. And you're sure it's not KJ Duff? Um, third season, 33%. Is it Cam Coleman?
No, come on.
It is not. It is not.
Was his market share that high? Couldn't have been.
Should be.
Well, it was a rough season for Auburn's passing game. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't surprise me, but at the same time,
Well, yeah, I'm
no,
not
no,
saying he
that
had
is
a
not the
bunch of
player.
yards, but the percentage should be pretty up there, though, I would think.
I think
Yeah,
I know who it is, but I'm
Right,
gonna
right.
sit back and listen.
This guy's actually a Big Ten player, so not SEC, but this guy is a Big Ten player. At least that's where he's played his career, so far, right?
Is it Jeremiah Smith?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie. Jeremiah Smith did pop into my head first, and I was like, all right, I think he's gonna make it easy. I don't think he's gonna make it that easy. So that's why I went Cam Coleman.
That was genius. He's like, oh, I'll make it easy. It's the easiest
Yeah,
one of all.
it's literally the easiest wide receiver you can make. Yeah, that was good. I like that.
Yeah, no, nice work, nice work. So that's what I mean. That's good. That's 3 points.
Yeah, I think
Great.
I got 3, you got 3, and Andy has 6. So we have some catching up to do for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let's
Nice
see.
work.
Hold on, Cam Coleman, really quick. I just want to see what his percentage was. Market share 31%. I was pretty close.
There you go.
That's
There you
insane.
go.
Did
I was
Auburn
pretty
throw for,
close.
Like 1,800 yards this season.
No, it was bad. I honestly think it was like 20 or 2075 or something like that, if I remember
Oh
correctly.
my god.
Yeah,
That's
and
awful.
KJ Duff was 34%. Come on, tell me I don't know my
Market
stuff.
shares.
I do know
Dang,
my market
dang.
shares. Oh, that was fun. All right, well, I mean, do we actually need to talk about Jeremiah Smith? I don't think we do.
No, the guy is a superstar, and yes, probably needs no further analysis for today at least, because he is staying
I-
put, right? He is
Yeah, I
not
was gonna
transferring.
say he is not transferring, so that's what we can say about Jeremiah Smith. Well, that was fun. I'm glad that we all got an easy one to start. That'll be fun. We probably need to come up with some other games to mix it up and not just always do guess the guy. Although I mean, I really do enjoy it, but we got to come up with something else, like mix it up and have some more fun. But we got some catching up to do with Andy. Hopefully, he can get some 1-pointers here in the near future. And I think he will be up next for Guess the Guy. But for now, we're going to go ahead and dive into Devy. Alrighty, Well, it is transfer portal time, and this year they changed it up to where there's literally only one transfer portal session, and it's right now. So we are getting a ton of names, and maybe that's why it feels like we're getting so many more. It's because it's all happening at once, whereas in the past it's kind of been like, oh, well, maybe I'll wait until spring and see how I do, and this and that. Now it's like, nope, you either transfer now or you are done. And I actually prefer it this way. I know some people are saying it's not fair to the kids, yada yada. I don't care. Like the kids are getting paid millions of dollars at this point. Like let them decide which school they're going to play at this season in January and not in June or July or whenever. But we have a long list of names that Aaron has been nice enough to cultivate for us. So we should probably not waste any time and go ahead and dive into Debbie and Aaron. You got some names for us?
Yes, let me start off with some notable names. At the very end, I can list off a bunch of guys who, we should make note of, but not necessarily get into here today. But some very notable guys. Deuce Knight from Auburn to Ole Miss now. DJ Legway transferring from Florida to Baylor. Brennan Sorsby to Texas Tech from Cincinnati. Byron Brown transferring up in competition to Auburn following his head coach from South Florida. Josh Hoover going to Indiana. So Indiana going to the college football playoff finals. So, the predecessor or the successor there to Fernando Mendoza. So that's Josh Hoover and Drew Mestamaker, of course, following his coach as well, up in competition level to Oklahoma State, and then Rocco back to Penn State coming from Iowa State. So which ones of those you guys really like? Are you guys especially optimistic for any of these guys for NFL and Devy purposes?
I had to say that I'm kind of excited for to an extent for Deuce Knight at Ole Miss. Like I didn't, not to say that I was ever a big Deuce Knight fan or anything like that, but he, like, I don't know, it just seems like it would be a good fit, and it was probably a better landing spot than I expected for him to go. Get if he was going to transfer out to anyone. Like after what we saw with Auburn this past season, as much as I like Byron Brown as a college quarterback, I don't know if I can get overly excited about it. Now we know that most of the problems they had was because of QB, so maybe it'll be fixed because of bringing in Brown, but I don't know. There's kind of like a stink in the air, and so it's hard to get overly excited. Um, Sorsby to Texas Tech maybe is fun. I know Aaron was a pretty big Sorsby fan at the beginning of the season, at the very least. I think he kind of soured on that a little bit. But it's just another fun college QB who, makes things fun. Unfortunately, I don't know that we love Texas Tech's wide receiver core or anything like that at this point, so I don't know if we're overly excited about all that. And then Josh Hoover to Indiana, I don't like Josh Hoover. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. He dinks and dunks more than like anyone else. And I guess if that's all you're asked to do, and if you can do it well, which I guess he does at TCU and everything, then it's fine. But I don't think this is going to be like the Fernando Mendoza turnaround that we saw, where all of a sudden we have a possibly an NFL viable QB. I don't think we're going to get that with Josh Hoover, as much as people really like him. And DJ Lagway is completely dead to me. So yeah, you'll never hear me talking good things about DJ Lagway ever again.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know, I guess neutral or even below average on a lot of these guys. I think so. I'm with you. Sorsby's probably the most exciting out of the group, with the exception of maybe Deuce Knight. Deuce Knight had that stellar one game for Auburn. Granted, it was against Mercer, so I don't know how much we can really pull out of that one singular game. But he ran for what, like 400 yards or something like it was something crazy on the ground he ran for, and like four touchdowns. And he was doing a little bit through the air, nothing crazy, but it's not like they had to do that. They had to try and pass against that Mercer team. So I think just going to Ole Miss, we now know, at least we think we know, Trinidad Chambliss won't be back next year, so it seems like he's going to be the starter there. But yeah, as far as like who's shown the most on the field so far, that would have to be Sorsby going to Texas Tech. I'm with you on Lagway. I'm not excited about Baylor at all. I know they're losing some of their receivers as well. It's just not an exciting spot, and he hasn't really done anything to tell me that things are going to change by going to a new school. If you go further down the list, I think Anthony Colandrea to Nebraska is a little bit interesting. He's kind of a gunslinger, not really careful with the ball, but he does sling it like crazy, and he has the rushing upside. Kenny Minchie's kind of an unknown going to Kentucky, so I'll be at least paying attention to that. Um, Aaron Philo is a guy that a lot of people in our collective C2C slash Devy space seem to be excited about. I don't have enough information on him to make a decision one way or another. That Florida spot, they're going to have the weapons that we like, Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson. So that'll help whoever does end up being the starter there, whether it's Philo or somebody else. Same thing with Lincoln Keenholz. There was this whole competition with him and Julian Sayin that went all off season long at Ohio State. He's going to a very pass-friendly offense at Louisville. Maybe he's a guy that really takes a big step forward here. This will be his fourth season in college, so hasn't really started or done anything. So a late bloomer, but maybe something to keep an eye on for C2C purposes, CFF purposes, and if he goes crazy, potentially NFL. So yeah, I mean, there's still some dominoes to fall. I think Sam Levitt was visiting Miami today. Um, Dylan Raiola, he's still out there somewhere. Hussein Longstreet has been bouncing around from place to place. So there's still some quarterbacks out there who maybe are more exciting than the guys that have committed. But from the ones on this list, I think, yeah, the ones that we've talked about are really the creams of the crop or the diamonds in the rough, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, we'll get Aaron's takes on these guys here in a second, but really quick, I want to talk on Drew Mestamaker. Honestly, him moving up to Oklahoma State feels like how I felt about Micaiah Hughes moving up to Oregon last year, and obviously, different positions, but I'm just saying I don't feel like this is going to be a good step up in in competition level. Honestly, if you look at what Mestamaker did, it's because of what he was, his level of competition. It's because of what he was dealing with. He had a 4.8% big time throw rate in the MAC or whatever the hell they're in, whatever conference North Texas is in. The his intended air yards was 8 point. I just had it and I lost it. Where was he? His intended air yards was 8.3 in the MAC or whatever conference. Once again, these are not things that are going to all of a sudden get better moving up to Oklahoma State, and that's not even saying that Oklahoma State's going up against the most difficult of competition, but obviously much more difficult than the G5 programs that he was going up against. So I don't know that it's going to be like a disaster or anything like that. And obviously, I wasn't comparing to Hughes saying like he's going to lose the job or not win the job or anything like that. Like it's probably his job to lose, but I just don't think it's going to be a great thing when it's all said and done, or something we should be overly excited about when it's all said and done, because I just don't think that kind of step up in competition works.
That's fair. I mean, in some ways, you could maybe compare it as well to what we saw from John Mateer going from, jumping up to the SEC level for Oklahoma this season, where he started off strong, but kind of fell off. One thing, though, there is more continuity there with Mestamaker going to Oklahoma State, and some of those great playmakers are also going to be there. We'll talk about them here in just a minute, but I mean, a little teaser, I guess. Caleb Hawkins is also following to Oklahoma State, and then so is the lead wide receiver Wyatt Young, as well as a depth receiver Miles Coleman. So, and no disrespect to the American Conference, but that you're right, John. That is a big jump up, and it's always difficult to make. But we've seen it in past years where they've been able to make that transition well. But like you said, you've dove into the numbers, and it's not the most promising thus far. So yes, there's room for growth. I don't think this makes him some sort of like Devy stud, top 5 quarterback in all of college football, though. And a couple other names, I think Cutter Boley to Arizona State. I think people will be intrigued with that one a little bit. Ethan Grunkmeyer to Virginia Tech, following his old coach there. again, for Devy purposes, I don't know that I'm that excited about him ultimately. And then there was one other one, Colton Joseph to Wisconsin, just a guy to cover. I don't have any hopes for him for Devy upside. And the same with Michael Hawkins. I mean, it's going to be fun from a CFF standpoint. Like for fantasy, Michael Hawkins to West Virginia could actually be pretty fun. But for our purposes, yeah, I mean, the rest of these guys kind of lackluster. But like Andy said, there's a bunch of opportunities out there. There's LSU. There's a few other top end schools that are still looking to fill that quarterback position through the portal. So we'll see what Longstreet does, what Levitt does, etc. You guys want to hear
Yeah,
about some
obviously.
running backs?
Well, yeah, obviously Levitt's going to be the big name that we have to see drop. I guess he's been reported to LSU, but that's been for a while now, and nothing has happened. So we're probably getting some kind of auction going on. Hey, you pay me 5.5. Hey, you pay me 6, and we'll see where it all lands when it's all said and done. Did we talk about Austin Simmons to Missouri? Like that one kind of sounds fun. I know we kind of have like a unanswered or we just have a big question mark with Austin Simmons. Like who is he? What is he? And all that. But of all the schools he could have landed at, Missouri is probably one of the better ones. One of the better landing spots that he could have had. And Missouri's offense, the team has been pretty good for the past handful of years. I like I said, he definitely could have landed in a worse spot. Maybe this is just hopium because I have a few shares on my C2C teams. But I kind of when he went to the transfer portal, you probably were thinking G5 or something like that, and then he ends up at Missouri. It's like, hey, this is not too bad.
It's a good landing spot. We'll see. There's much unknown with his profile, that's for sure. But his play was pretty inconsistent before the injury ending the season. So unfortunately, it's kind of a projection even more so than last year, right? We are pretty optimistic within that Ole Miss system, and then now he's out of that system. So, but he's going to be much more affordable in drafts and in trades. That's the good part now.
Absolutely. Well, the QBs might not be overly exciting. Sorry, I'm like choking over here.
Well, hold on. Let me throw one more name
Oh,
out there before
yeah,
we
go ahead.
go. He wasn't on Aaron's list, but I mentioned him, I think, on a previous episode. Kennesaw State's quarterback, Amari Odom. I think he's going to Syracuse. And I kind of called him a Darian Mensa light whenever I mentioned him a couple episodes ago. And I think that's somebody who could be a CFF guy in a Syracuse pass happy offense if they get the right players to help him out there. So he's a guy that I might throw a couple darts on at the end of supplemental drafts as well, just because he does have the rushing upside as well.
I like it. I like it. So for some running backs, I mean, like John said, there's some excitement there. I will go through some of the studs at the very top, and then we'll get into the rest of the depth. But I mean, Hollywood Smothers, first initially committing to Alabama, but now flipping over to Texas in the portal. That's pretty exciting. We also saw that Raleek Brown has been committed to Texas. I don't know if that's about to change, but Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers, that's a pretty electric backfield now for Texas. Definitely getting some upgrades as they're seeing some of their guys, drift off. CJ Baxter going to Kentucky now, and Trey Wisner going to Florida State. So, but we should be excited about Hollywood Smothers. He is the bigger of the two guys as far as, the bigger stud, I would say. Neither one of those guys are like huge backs, right? Physically built, but they are very skilled. And another skilled guy is Caleb Hawkins going to Oklahoma State, guy who just broke college football at the G5 level last season, transferring up a level in competition, but there's continuity there. I like what Oklahoma State has done for years at the running back position. And then, I guess start with those two and just how excited are you guys? Are those guys just absolute studs?
Well, I mean, we were kind of hoping that Hollywood Smothers was going to come out in this class, and that we were going to be able to utilize him in this terrible running back class. And obviously that's not the case. But you have to be excited about what they're putting together at Texas, especially once we get into the wide receivers in the transfer portal that are going to Texas as of today. you have to be pretty excited about with what they're putting together there, and think that this could be back to what Texas looked like a few years ago with like Bijan and who's the QB before Quinn Ewers? I can't think of his name right now, uh, but I think they had a couple like solid years and everything, offensively, at least for college purposes. And we're all struggling to come up with a name right now, but we'll figure it out here in a second. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. But then Caleb Hawkins, I just got done saying how I don't think the transition is going to be great for the QB from Estemaker. And I mean, I kind of hate being like the helmet scouter kind of guy. That's normally not me. But Oklahoma State has had amazing college running backs at the very least, and they've actually put some decent ones into the NFL. They don't. I don't think they get enough credit, for what they've actually done and everything. But I I think that Caleb Hawkins is going to go in and be just fine, and yeah, maybe Mestmaker isn't going to be a stud. I think he's still going to be a fine college QB. He's going to be able to move the offense along enough that Caleb Hawkins can go do his thing. And I mean, maybe Hawkins isn't going to be scoring 5 touchdowns a game or something like that, like he was at North Texas, but I think this is one that's actually going to work where he steps up the level of competition and it still looks pretty damn good when it's all said and done. And I think when it's all said and done, I think he is a Devy viable running back, not just a CFF viable running back.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we all agree. Hawkins was a star this year. He's moving up with his coach, with a large portion of his team. The Big 12 is a step up, but I don't think it's like a massive step up like it would be to go to the Big 10 or the SEC. So I think they're still going to win games. They're going to be competitive in a lot of other games. And he's going to put up stats. Like he's going to have probably 1,000 rushing yards. He's probably going to have, add another 20 to 30 catches. And he'll just look good. And you can be excited about him as a Devy guy. And then as for Hollywood Smothers, I think Texas is a great spot. I like Raleek Brown too. He's a little bit older and kind of took a little bit longer to do anything while he was in college. If I remember correctly, they're both a little bit undersized. So I'm not sure what the plan is there at Texas, but I think Hollywood Smothers is right now. If you had to pick somebody out of this transfer portal, it would be between him and Caleb Hawkins for the most likely to be a producer, score a lot of points for your CFF teams next year, and then also move on to the NFL and potentially be a viable draft pick slash dynasty rookie pick at some point in their careers as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair for sure. Those are easily the top names. But there are some promising names like Bryson Washington going to Auburn. I think, he had a down season. A lot of that was due to injury. So he's certainly a faller in the ranks and from a productivity standpoint, but still the talent is there for a rebound. You got Cam Cook now transferring back up to a higher level of competition at West Virginia. Again, that could be a fun offense this season. Do we truly believe in the player? I still have some skepticism. Can he be like a true NFL guy? I don't know. I don't know that I have a lot of faith in that, at least. I am curious what the Penn State running back situation is going to look like. They are going to have a lot of opportunity there. You have, Carson Hansen coming in from Iowa State following his coach, but James Peoples from Ohio State also coming into that Penn State backfield. That's interesting. We just got word that C.J. Baxter, the former borderline 5-star recruit from Texas, is now going to Kentucky, another SEC school. I have some skepticism that he's going to be able to put up huge numbers at Kentucky, but that's a talented back if he's healthy. But again, we just don't know like how much his athleticism is zapped due to the knee injury. Is he going to bounce back? I don't know about C.J. Baxter, but and there's some fun depth names too. I mean, everybody was just anticipating Mekhi Hughes to break out at Oregon. Well, we were a little bit hesitant on it on this podcast, and obviously that did not pan out. But he's going to Houston now, where he'll get some opportunities. You would think now that there's some opportunity there this last season, and it's not like the backs that they had. They were productive, but they weren't that talented. So I think Mekhi Hughes, that's a little bit better level of college football for him to be able to succeed. So he is another name, at least for CFF purposes, we got to pay attention to. But for Devy, I'm not, insanely high by any means.
Yeah, I think that with Bryson Washington, is as fun as he was and as excited as I was for him going into the season, we can blame it on injury and stuff, but unfortunately with these running backs, like you got to stay healthy, you got to be on the field, and you got to put it together. And he did not do that in his junior year. So we need to see a pretty big step forward or turnaround from him to get back to what he was, because this year was just not in. It sucks because he didn't miss any time. He played 12 games, so it's like you can't sit there and say, "Oh, he had some major injury or something," and he probably did. I'm not even discounting it or anything. The problem is you can't really point to it and say, "Oh, well, yeah, if he didn't miss 6 games, or something like that." And that's the problem with that one. Cam Cook, yeah, if you're not averaging like 8 yards per carry or 9 yards per carry at James Madison, I'm not really thinking you're going to step up to West Virginia and all of a sudden become something special. Not overly excited about that one. Turbo Richards at Indiana is kind of exciting. I mean, I think we all kind of liked him or were intrigued by him at some point, and it hasn't really worked out per se, but we're excited about what Indiana is doing clearly, and they're trying to like reload and possibly go for another national championship next year. So that has to be exciting. I think the biggest one, like you said, is Penn State. What is going to happen there? We've kind of been excited for Quentin Martin there for a couple of years. Maybe the excitement has waned a little bit as they've allowed Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen to stay and everything, but yet here he is. We're hoping he's going to be able to be the lead back. He did well in the playoff game there, or in the bowl game, I should say. Not they definitely did not make a playoff game. Um, and like Carson Hansen definitely beat out Abu Sama this year, and was the lead back, but that's not really saying much. That's not something that we like. Once again, if you're averaging like 4.9 yards per carry, 5.1 yards per carry, like this is not someone that we need to be like overly scared of. And we could probably say similar things for James Peoples. So like, yeah, of course they brought in competition, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be all of a sudden it's going to be Carson Hansen as the lead back for Penn State when it's all said and done.
Man, I feel like I'm going to go against some of you guys, maybe both of you, maybe just one, but I really don't like Carson Hansen. But obviously, this is bad for Quentin Martin because they're bringing people in, but that's just Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell is the reason that Abu Sama isn't a bigger guy, a bigger name than he really should be because of Carson Hansen. Because Carson Hansen sucked. His big time run rate was trash. And every time Abu Sama touches the ball, look at him every year. He's only, his first year he got 84 carries, 611 yards, and he added. He's not an excellent receiver, but in those limited opportunities, he was still catching seven, 8 balls every year. And then same thing the following 2 seasons. It seemed like he was having down years, but the big time run rate was always there. It's always right around 7.5, 8%. Same thing this year. Over 8%. And the PPR points per touch might not be there because he's only had 7 rushing touchdowns in the past 2 seasons, but he's getting all these touches taken away by Carson Hansen, he's just garbage. He's not a good running back. So at least he's going to Wisconsin, who doesn't have anybody that can run the ball. He might not even have an offense unless Colton Joseph can resurrect whoever. I can't even remember our coach's name, Fickle's career. But I like Abu Sama here at the towards the bottom of the list. But I'll work my way back up a little bit. Turbo Richard or Richard or whatever his name is. He's all right. I think his breakaway run, his yards per attempt was good. The breakaway run rate wasn't necessarily that great. And I think Indiana's a team that likes to spread their running back touches around. I think Kobe Martin's a guy that might end up outperforming him on a per touch basis next year. People are saying CJ Baxter is going to be the running back 1 at Kentucky. That's just those are just bag holders. CJ Baxter, as far as I'm concerned, he's completely dead. We
He
talked about
probably is.
Makai Hughes in the pre-show. I think he's the perfect Dean Connors replacement. So if you want Dean Connors and you have Makai Hughes, congratulations, you got Dean Connors again for another season. Um, Whatever that value or means to you, that's what you got. And then I'm just looking at a few of the other names here. Cam Cook. I think Cam Cook's a little bit interesting, honestly. Um, Pretty good big time run rate. The problem with him is that I'm not going to be able to get him because his price is going to be higher than I would be willing to pay. I don't think that he's going to turn around and be the top five Devy running back next year. And at the price that you're going to pay, you're probably not paying top five Devy running back, but you're paying a significant amount of capital just for his CFF upside and potential NFL upside. And I just wouldn't want to risk it on somebody like that. But I do think that he could be successful at West Virginia. And Bryson Washington, I'm still very hopeful for. I think he had a decent enough season despite the injury. The big time run breakaway yards per attempt is what I'm starting to realize is a little bit more important. You have to have the breakaway run rate, but the breakaway yards per attempt is something that I'm looking at a little bit deeper. And his was right around 2, but just under. I like it to be over 2, which not a good sign. But he's done it as a freshman, so I think there could be a bounce back. Auburn has Jeremiah Cobb, who I liked for a brief moment in time, not like loved, but thought he was all right enough. I think Bryson Washington easily clears Cobb. So, yeah, and then I already talked about C.J. Baxter and Jared Gibb. Texas is just they're giving everybody their trash and then bringing in the actual good running backs to their team, which is funny.
Well, speaking of
But
trash, we got Trey Wisner going to FSU.
yeah,
I think we have to at least mention him. I mean, he's nothing but a college running back, but I guess people are starting to get a little concerned about Usman Kroma because of Wisner. Because while we don't think that he's anything special, he has definitely proven that he can take the rock and run with it, and he has earned coaches love and admiration and whatever else before, so it wouldn't be that unbelievable that he's at least breaks into and steals some of Chroma's touches as well over there in FSU.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll just real quick. It's just more of Texas's garbage going out the door because Jared Gibson's on this list too. So I think Usman Kroma is a lot better than Wisner. I don't know if he can do his little technique on the coaches there to say like, oh yeah, give me the ball some more. But I'll say Usman Kroma. This shouldn't hurt his value at all. So if you're worried about that, I think you can put those worries to rest.
Yeah, Chroma is a guy that I definitely am still very high on, but I mean the coaching staff was not very willing to give him a large workload besides him looking pretty good, at least very steady throughout the season for a true freshman. So, I'm very curious to see what things look like for Florida State. They're potentially going to misutilize their talent if they give Trey Wisner a big workload. I guess another couple guys in the transfer portal we should touch on before wide receivers, just Marquise Davis going to Louisville. Unfortunately, it's very, very jam-packed there. He's just going to be waiting for at least one season, if not two. And I don't love the move for him. If some of those other guys transferred out like there was rumors of, that would have been great. But unfortunately, Marquise Davis is a talented back, but going from Missouri, I would have liked to see him land somewhere else with more opportunity. Adam Muhammad going to Cal. Fortunately, it's still going to be a timeshare unless Kendrick Raphael transfers out. But no word of that, at least to my knowledge thus far. So I think Muhammad there might be stuck in a timeshare as well. And he's not an insanely efficient back either. But he's capable enough. And then John and I both like Taylor Tatum. I can't remember Andy's take on him coming out of high school, but I'm pretty low on the move to Michigan. But Taylor Tatum has now committed to Michigan, and I know John had some thoughts on it. I still don't think that he is going to be able to take that job unless there's injury there, right? But Justice Haynes has put his hat into the transfer portal. He is probably gone. We don't know for sure. I don't know. I'm not going to say that Jordan Marshall is a stud, but I think he's a good college back. I think he's got enough continuity, having already been at Michigan, playing pretty well down the stretch there when needed. So I just don't know that there's enough for Taylor Tatum to really come in and seize the job. I mean, he couldn't seize the job at Oklahoma, and they had pretty inconsistent running this year.
See, I think, and I was talking to somebody today about Oklahoma in general and just how crazy that offense was. Like, it just seemed broken. Oklahoma seemed broken this year. And I look at that, and then I look at Michigan, and, Jordan Marshall with his 6% big time run rate, like he was fine. He was fine this year, but he wasn't special. And, we don't think that Justice Haynes is absolutely special, but what do we think is special? Michigan's run game. We love Michigan's run game. So you put a guy who was the number one running back in his class in Michigan's run game. What was Justice Haynes before he got to Michigan? Nothing. He was terrible. He was garbage. That's what Taylor Tatum has been. I honestly think, and I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong. But aren't Tatum and Marshall from the same class? I believe they are. And I want to say that, and I'm not saying that I'm absolutely right because I'm the recruit rankings guru, but I did say that I was going to trust my rankings from Debbie Beth or from Fresh Beth more. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to say Taylor Tatum is the better running back, and he will be the better running back on Michigan. That being said, if Justice Haynes stays somehow or something, they're probably both screwed. But I think assuming that Haynes is gone and all that, then I think it's going to be the Taylor Tatum show. I really do think that Marshall has benefited from Michigan system, from Haynes, from all that. I don't know that it's going to be the same thing next year or this upcoming season.
Yeah. I was, I just go with the flow with freshmen coming out of high school. So Tatum had a lot of stars in front of his name, so I liked him. But his 2 year stint at Oklahoma was not something that should excite anybody. And I don't know what Michigan's going to look like next year. They obviously had their coaching fallout. Kyle Whittingham's brought in from basically retirement from Utah to put this program back on the rails. So I don't know what it's going to look like, but I do know that I don't think Jordan Marshall is an NFL running back. So if that leads to more opportunity, like Justice Haynes is not there, it kind of feels like it's wide open. So if it is an injury thing that was hampering Tatum to why he couldn't see the field this year, and he's 100% healthy, I don't think there's a reason that he couldn't take the job away from Jordan Marshall, or at least take like the primary role from Jordan Marshall. But that will remain to be seen. It's a new staff, it's new everything, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Maybe they want to just let Bryce Underwood throw it to Andrew Marshmore, which would be beautiful for everybody. I think that's probably what we'd want to see, given the roster that they have right now. But yeah, it's not something that you should get super excited about if you have a Taylor Tatum share and you're just hoping for, NFL upside at this point. But it's a little bit of an uptick, but it's really kind of nothing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not betting on NFL viability for at this point, but I think it is more open than it's just Jordan Marshall's game or whatever. But we have a lot of wide receivers, and for some reason, there's tight ends on this page as well. So why don't we go ahead and transition over to the wide receivers? There's some pretty damn exciting names here. In fact, I believe we got two names that got actual confirmations of where they were going just today. So it was good timing for the pod.
Yeah, there are some big names for sure amongst tight ends because yeah, we're not gonna have really time to go into them, and we don't really need to, right, for the most part. But Benjamin Brahmer to Penn State, right, following his head coach from Iowa State. That's actually pretty intriguing with everything that they can do. Sometimes putting out tight end talent in the Luke Reynolds leaving Penn State, going to Virginia Tech, following his old coach, kind of interesting as well because I think there's some talent there. But going to wide receivers, much more exciting topic. Cam Coleman finally committing to Texas. That's a big time get for the Texas Longhorns and injects a lot of talent into that wide receiver room. So, I mean, there's complementary pieces there. Cam Coleman can be that featured guy for Arch. And then Nick Marsh going to Indiana. That is fun because we've seen what Indiana did this year. Yes, they're going to have to reload a little bit, but they are not hesitant to get guys through the transfer portal. We already said that they were getting a running back there in Turbo Richard to Indiana. Well, now they are getting a high-end wide receiver, Nick Marsh, to Indiana. One of the best landing spots, I would say, in college football. So those are two top names, but there's a lot of other names here that are pretty intriguing. Any reactions there amongst those two? Or are those pretty much like no-brainer studs?
Uh, was the Nick Marsh news real as far as like him getting in trouble, or was that just something that was being speculated upon?
I think it might be speculation. Somebody noticed an app on his phone when he was watching the Indiana game, like a FanDuel app or something. So I don't know if there's an investigation, but there might be like some sports gambling stuff going on, but it hasn't really been substantiated yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to just like throw it out there and be like, "Oh my God, he's dead," and blah blah blah. So I wanted to make sure that I think we did a good job of saying it's possible. There's some news, there's some murmurs out there and all that, but yeah, the landing spot though is spectacular. I don't necessarily love Josh Hoover. I don't know that I would get overly excited about that. I do think he's a fine college QB. There's definitely worse college QBs out there, and we love what Signetti and Indiana has done so far. So I think you have to be excited about Marsh. It's not like he was in the greatest situation already offensively. So at the very least, it's a lateral move, if anything. But I honestly think it has to be better for him when it's all said and done. And then Cam Coleman at Texas, like we just got done talking about Hollywood Smothers. We're talking about all these players going to Texas, and it's just like holy crap! Arch Manning finally has what we like wanted him to have, and I think we got excited about some of the transfers last year because we kind of felt like we had to. Maybe it was like, oh man. Texas is going to be great. We got Emmett Mosley and we got, Ryan Wingo and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, yeah, I don't think Wingo is a true one, and Mosley obviously didn't prove to be like anything special, but I think they also proved that they need some offensive line help and they need to, fix that. But they turned things around towards the end of the season. They were a completely different offense from, week 1 to week 12 in a good way. And I see adding Cam Coleman, adding Hollywood Smothers, like things are going to be really special next year for Texas, in my opinion. Obviously, now we have Arch with actual games under his belt and everything. I just got done talking to somebody, about how there's really not any like just teams that can completely take over and dominate football right now in college football because of NIL and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think Texas might be one of those teams this upcoming year, just the way things are looking right now. And Cam Coleman's going to be a big part of that. As unexcited as we were for Auburn's Cam Coleman, I think we can be super excited for Texas's Cam Coleman.
And I would agree there. Those are big time names. And Andy, tell me, how excited are you for Jace Brown to LSU? And there's also Jackson Harris transferring up to LSU. There's also Eric Singleton now not declaring for the NFL draft. Originally, he was going to. Thinking about it, he's going to Florida now. We talked about that earlier. That's exciting as well. A guy that we were hopeful for, but at the same time, he didn't have a good season, right? He had okay season. He was misutilized, etc. at Auburn. But Eric Singleton going to Florida, hopefully getting some better quarterback play, getting out of that system there. How exciting is this for guys who maybe underutilized last year in a Jace Brown, Eric Singleton? Maybe you can include Jackson Harris if you like him also going to LSU.
Yeah, I mean, Jace Brown going to Lane Kiffin's system is just so thrilling. Obviously, we've known Jace Brown has been a spectacular wide receiver for 3 years now. He's just been stuck in Kansas State, where they run the ball a lot. They've got their quarterback, Avery Johnson, who was another extension of the running game, who, he was fine, but it wasn't like he was going to be able to throw for 350 yards in a game at any given point in time. So Jace Brown's, he kind of had a cap on how much production he could really accomplish there. So now he's going to what NFL draft analysts call a Mickey Mouse offense with Lane Kiffin. So that means he's going to score a ton of points, which we can all be excited about. Um, the other, Jackson Harris, I really don't have a take on him, but it's going to LSU. I think that's fine. Eric Singleton to Florida is interesting. I think people are really high on Vernell Brown, also high on Dallas Wilson. I like it. I think Eric Singleton has the experience, so he probably at least gets a solid market share in that offense. Let's say over 25%. Which he was able to do comfortably everywhere he's been at. And hopefully they utilize him more like they did at Georgia Tech. Depending on who's throwing him the ball, like I said, Aaron Philo, I guess there's some familiarity there because they would have been on the same roster at the same time. So there's probably something, I don't know. But I do want to throw out a controversial take about Cam Coleman. I know you guys are really in love with him. I'm not. I think Cam Coleman might just be okay. Like the yards per team pass attempt are just floating right around where I like to see it, and he's never had a season over 1.75 yards per route run.
You do know who his QB was, right?
He had the same QB as Eric Singleton. Eric Singleton, even though he was getting the ball like 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, still was able to cross those thresholds. So I understand. He's been dealing with some bad quarterback play, but the numbers that I like to see just weren't there. So maybe this is like a Alec Ayo Manor thing where it's just kind of I wasn't feeling as high on him as John was because of that poor quarterback play and
the wide receiver one for the Tennessee Titans. You weren't excited about that player?
We'll see. I have a feeling they're going to try and look elsewhere. But
I'm talking about this season. This season, his rookie year, he's the wide receiver one on the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, that really gets you places. Right, just in front of Kamir DK. But no, I think Cam Coleman's just kind of he's all right. I think he's probably a day 2 pick if I'm being honest with myself right now. If he would have to really. Let me get back in frame here. He would have to really break out at Texas for me to change my tune on him and say this is a first-round draft pick. I just don't think that he's shown us that that's what he is right now.
I see another grudge match in our future.
That's fine. I was right on Mekhi Lemon. Oh, before I throw it to somebody else, Mekhi Lemon reminded me. One of my guys, Terrell Anderson, is going to USC. So I think that's another one that you should be excited about. Under the radar guy who has just sort of been a really solid player at NC State. And now he's going to a spot at USC where there's just a ton of vacated targets, vacated yardage, and seems like he should be the wide receiver one there.
Yeah, 10.0 ADOT, so he's perfect for Mekhi Lemon's replacement.
I do not mind Terrell Anderson going to USC. Hopefully, a little bit better play in his future. But yeah, he's a solid player. I think that I'm pretty excited about Reed Harris going to Arizona State as a guy that I've liked for a long time as like an underrated, like really big target, deep threat. But is he ever going to be like that? A super high volume guy. That's the question, right? With the Reed Harris. Yeah, there's some limitations to his stature, and there's Amarian Miller going there too. That was one of my sleepers if he came out in this class, going from Colorado now to Arizona State. So those guys are going to fight over the alpha role. We also have Raiden Vines Bright, RVB to Arizona State. So they're just loading up, but I think he's a little bit more of a depth option. I know some in the space disagree, but Amarian Miller, Reed Harris, a couple fun names going to that. I also think going to be a fun system if they can get some consistent quarterback play there. That's the question this year. Wyatt Young, we already mentioned him going to Oklahoma State. I guess Ian Strong, we have to mention him, right? Going to Cal. JKS is going to have a weapon to throw to. I know Chase Hendricks is also going to Cal, but he's not a Ian Strong caliber type of wide receiver. But yeah, Strong, unfortunately, didn't have the most consistent year this year because of injury and whatnot. KJ Duff stepping up, but he should be the alpha there at Cal, and they desperately need that playmaking wide receiver. So that's a big time move and a big time wide receiver.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking that one of the players that we haven't really mentioned, I don't think, who's going to be overrated because of the transfer is going to be Eugene Wilson going to LSU as well. People are just going to get, oh man, it's LSU and this is fun and Lane Kiffin and like we're in what year 4 of Eugene Wilson now. Like we know who he is. He's probably going to play 3 games, and in those 3 games, he's going to have a -6 A dot. I just don't know that we need to be overly excited about that player. Um, did we talk about Danny Scudero? Because I feel like that's a player that we haven't. Yeah, going over to Colorado. I mean, I don't know how excited we are about Colorado at this point. Is I mean, he wasn't in the transfer report. Is Juju Lewis the QB still? Or someone else coming in or anything. I don't know. I haven't paid that much attention to Colorado, but I think that Scudero is a quality receiver. He earned his keep at the G5. He's trying to move up here and see if he can make it in the Big 12. I kind of wish that he had transferred to even a better situation, but with Amarian Miller leaving and all that, it does kind of leave room for Scudero to kind of prove he can still be the guy. Scudero is like one of my highest G5 rated guys in the past few years. So he's definitely somebody that I want to keep on my radars here. And I was interested to see where he ended up when it was all said and done.
Yeah, I kind of feel similar maybe to Andy and how he did with Cam Coleman. It's like I've just always been a little bit underwhelmed with him, and maybe it's because he's not necessarily that young of a guy. And Danny Scudero, he had a good season, but definitely faded down the stretch. And a lot of that was quarterback play, but now he has to transfer up a level of competition to Colorado. And I just don't see the size there, right? He's a limited player from a frame standpoint. He's quick, he's fast. He'll be able to probably put up some nice stats there, but for NFL purposes, I don't know. I just am wanting more with Scudero. Maybe I'll be proven wrong this season. One guy that I think has some Devy potential, though I've always been a little bit skeptical of his film, is Jeremiah Koger going to Auburn. He's transferring up a level of competition, following his coach from South Florida. And so is Keyshawn Singleton to Auburn. So Jeremiah Koger, people are excited after what he did as a true freshman there. I think that's a interesting name at least. You got another, I guess, big time school getting involved in the transfer portal. Devin McEwen, wide receiver, going to Ohio State. And I will be honest, I have not watched McEwen really ever. I've never really paid that much attention to him, never rostered the guy, but I've heard some people getting excited. Friend of the show, Corey Pereira from C2C, and the guy is great in the Devy base. Corey's excited about the move, for example, I've heard. So Ohio State loading up with another guy. Could that replace some of the production that Carnell Tate is leaving behind? I don't know, maybe.
Well, I'll just say, to me, this kind of signals that Brian Hartline was the heart, no pun intended, that was beating for this wide receiver U status that Ohio State had for the longest time, bringing in these 5 stars, almost like they didn't even need to try. Like they were going to get the top wide receiver. And they did again this year with Chris Henry, or at least one of the top receivers this year with Chris Henry Jr. But I'll just say McEwen is not somebody that I am overly excited about. And I know John's gonna really hate McEwen because his ADOT was like 8 yards, and he's not a slot receiver. So the play style just doesn't really make much sense. Like, what is he? He's let me get his size here. He's just a 6 foot, 195 pound guy. So he's just an average sized wide receiver, but it doesn't seem like he's overly athletic. He's not going to beat you over the top or anything like that. He doesn't play the slot, so he's not doing any of these positional slant routes or anything crazy. I don't know what he is. And Jeremiah Smith is going to be on that team. He's obviously going to be the number one target. Um, Brandon Innes, I guess, is still there. I don't know how much confidence we have in him. But I feel like Chris Henry Jr. is like the one that I would put all my money on right now to actually be the wide receiver two for Ohio State next year.
That's fair. I mean, you make some good points countering there. I think the idea is, or from what I've heard, is that McEwen is an underrated athlete out there, just has not put it together. But again, I'm not really seeing it there. As we're getting to this hour point, and we have a bunch more guys like Trey Richardson going to Louisville, Yannick Smith transferring up to SMU, Kenny Johnson going over to Texas Tech, pairing with Sorsby over there. Parker Livingstone going to Oklahoma. Marcus Johnson going to Mississippi State.
That's the
I don't know.
one
There's a
that
couple
I'm
other
excited
names.
about. I'm excited about
Yeah,
Marquise
I mean,
Johnson. I've been excited about him as a player before, but things didn't work out with Perbula and with Missouri. They were throwing the ball 7.5 yards down the field, and Marquise Johnson is definitely more of a deep threat kind of player. That doesn't work out when you're doing that. Kamario Taylor, I know he had a terrible injury, but he's supposed to be back and healthy for spring practices. Hopefully, he'll be 100% by the time the season starts. He only played a couple of games, but his ADOT in those two games was 13.2. That's what we want to see. So that actually gets me pretty excited. Marquise Johnson was one of those players that I thought could have been a breakout player this year. Obviously, things didn't work out. And obviously the chances go down, the odds go down, but I still could possibly see a Marquise Johnson breakout at Mississippi State this year. I'm just getting some
any other
nods, so I
thoughts
guess
there,
we're
Andy?
gonna.
No, I'm like going between tabs, but yeah, no, I agree. I like Marquise Johnson. You guys inspired me to pick him up last year, and I think he had a couple pretty good games early on for Missouri, and then
Oh, he
kind of
started out hot. I thought it was going to be an
yeah.
amazing season, and then it was just nothing the rest of the
Then it was
time.
like Kevin Coleman
Yeah.
getting like 50 catches a game.
I might have some Marquise Johnson shares to sell you guys because he's burned me pretty well. He's a great athlete. That's the thing. He's fast, right? He can win down the field. He just was not properly utilized last year. And am I that hopeful that Mississippi State will suddenly just make him into a stud and get drafted super highly? Yeah. I mean that system, and I don't know if it's pumping out NFL second, first round picks, anything like that. Quasi Gilmer going to Nebraska. I mean, to be honest, I've had some hope for Gilmer, like as a deep sleeper, but just a lack of winning down the field is the one question. Does he have the true big time playmaking ability that? To me, that's the question. He is more of an underneath guy. Like he'll play a nice role. It's just that he's not probably a stud. I mean, that's my reservation for it. He could be really solid for Nebraska in a team that needs another solid wide receiver. Otherwise, Venturivius Jacobs to Miami, maybe interesting. I can't really understand what happened at South Carolina last year. Like he was hot there for a while and then he faded and his metrics were actually very promising for a while, but yeah, that fell off.
Speaking of South Carolina, is there a wellness check on Nick Harbor, or has anyone heard his name recently? No, the other guy I just want to briefly mention, Kayshawn Brown from Duke, who's going to Virginia Tech. They're losing Trell Harris to Oklahoma along with Parker Livingstone. So I do think there will be some opportunity there. I think Kayshawn Brown, Cooper Barkate was the wide receiver one at Duke, but I think Kayshawn Brown was like a really solid wide receiver too. And even in his true sophomore year, he had 41 catches. So moving up, not moving up, but staying in the ACC, but maybe having more opportunity to be like the wide receiver one. So I think that one's moderately interesting.
Actually, you know what? There's a player that's not in the portal that I'm wondering should we talk about, and it's because his teammate who didn't really hold him back that much anyways, Raiden Vines Bright transferred to Arizona State. Denzel Boston is going to the NFL. Damon Williams was going to leave and go to LSU, but now he's staying in Washington. Should we be pretty excited for Desmond Roebuck this year?
Yes, but he's not eligible for this conversation, so that will have to be another day here, John.
I mean,
But yes,
like I
we should
said,
be
it was
excited still.
transfer portal adjacent.
Yes, and we have a lot of adjacents to get to here in the future because I mean, hey, we like Roebuck, right? He's got to be one of our most talked about players, so we got to put that stamp out there. Like he could be going off with the continuity there at Washington for sure. So yeah, a good shout out. I kind of am interested in Trey Richardson. Like I have to dive a little bit more into him and watch him a bit more, but going to Louisville, that could be actually a pretty fun system, pretty fun wide receiver after what he did last year at Vanderbilt. But I need to look more into the player. But any last thoughts here, guys, as we are just past the hour point on any other transfers that we didn't talk about or any things to keep in mind for our listeners?
Well, I think, we just did our New Year's resolutions pod, Aaron, not too long ago, and we said we were going to stick to our guns on some of these transfers. We were going to, make players earn it. Perry Thompson going to Minnesota. We're gonna make him earn it. We're not just gonna say, "Oh, he's the wide receiver one now," and things like that. We're gonna, and even as excited as I am for Marquise Johnson to possibly have it, there's still a lot of question marks. Do we get a healthy Kamario Taylor? Is Marquise Johnson the wide receiver one on that team? Like, there's question marks. So I'm not going to allow myself to get overly excited. And that being said, we just talked about we on that same pod we talked about how Cam Coleman is already a stud. So I will be excited for that, and then we will do the grudge match with Andy at some point next year. But honestly, after like week 3, he's going to be like, oh wait, his yards per route run are up at like 3.6, so it doesn't even matter. We don't have to do this anymore. So stick to stick to our guns, but not when it comes to Cam Coleman being bad. Definitely don't stick to that ever. And then just but yes, but all joking aside, when these players are transferring, there's usually a reason for it. And so we have to keep that in mind and just not get overly excited. We are excited about some of these players, but not get overly excited. Eric Singleton going to Florida. I'm a Gator fan. This actually makes me less excited about Eric Singleton. I wish he would have just gone to the NFL. We don't have a QB. We'll never have a QB. It's Florida. So I don't know. I'm not overly excited about that. So stick to your guns. Don't get overly excited about the transfers. But obviously pay attention to this stuff because it does matter.
And I will make Cam Coleman earn it.
I like those words of wisdom, Andy. We got to let these guys earn it out there. So, any last wrap up things here, John? John is typically the guy who wraps up the show. He's got the magic touch. And those are some words of wisdom, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. We appreciate you guys being here as always. Make sure you are liking and subscribing. Make sure you're hitting us up. For some reason, someone decided that they wanted to give us a bad review on Spotify. So our numbers actually went down. And hey, you know what? If they're just being honest, that's great. If they're being malicious, that's not great. Whatever, that's fine. So give us your honest feedback, but let us know the why and all that kind of stuff. So like, subscribe, review, do all that. Don't be malicious. Don't give any one-star reviews just to do it because you're our competitor or something like that. But make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're following us over on Gridiron Ratings on YouTube so you can check out the videos, the shorts, all that kind of good stuff that we're putting out there. And we will be back in your ears as soon as possible. But for now, we're going to go ahead and cash out. See you guys later.